Leadership is not just about managing people. It's about avoiding bad hires, unlocking hidden talent, and actually making your team perform. Here's the truth. Being a great leader is not the same as being a top performer. Bad hiring decisions cost more than bad processes. I've been talking about this for years on my podcast and working with more than 10 go-to-market teams. In this episode, I've been invited on the SDR Leaders of EMEA podcast, and I will break down key lessons I've learned. Find and leverage your team member superpowers, encouraging self-awareness in your sales reps, how AI is a game changer in outbound strategy. Welcome back to the Outbound Kitchen podcast. I'm Elric, the Outbound Chef, and this is your go-to resource for scaling outbound. Let's get cooking.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, dependent, of course, on when and where you are joining us from. This is a day in the life of an SDR leader. Now, today we are joined by Elric Legloire. I should be able to pronounce that name given that I live in France. But thank you very much for joining me today, Elric. Elric is the founder of the Outbound Kitchen. Really glad that you could join me and keen to get your take. But first, did you want to introduce yourself and tell the audience a little bit more?
Yeah, sure. So like you said today, I'm the founder of the Outbound Kitchen, but before that, I'm still working in Texas, but not directly for companies, but more they work with me as a customers. But I've been an SDR for 3 years, and then 3 years as an SDR leader, mainly for SaaS companies. And I have experience mainly on the North American market and the EMEA market. So that's my main experience. And today, and actually this year, I made the decision to build my own business, and I work mainly right now with SaaS companies with 10 plus reps, and I help them specifically with outbound strategies. And on top of that, I have a newsletter and a podcast called Outbound Kitchen.
Brilliant. I'm really keen to hear a little bit more about that transition from an individual contributor role into leadership because it's such a huge step, right? Were there any pieces of advice that really helped you when you made that step?
So the transition, I was working at a SaaS company called TalkPush. That was the first time I got the opportunity to lead the team. So it was not the plan to be in this position actually. I was hired to be a BDR, and 4 months after, they offered me the manager role position. And because I was already doing some onboarding or training programs for the team, they said, yeah. I say, why not? To be fair with you, the transition was, I was lost. And I think, actually, it's funny because I was talking with Dave last week about that specifically. But when you are, it's an early stage company, and most of the time, early stage companies, they put you in the role, and yeah, go figure out. And that was it. So I was overwhelmed. I didn't know what to focus on. So I was trying to remember exactly all the things I was doing, but I think a lot of things were maybe not the right things to do. But the biggest learning I would say from this audition was being a leader. It's a new job, complete new job. So it's not like about knowing everything about, for example, because I'm used to lead SDR teams, so mainly outbound teams. Last year, for example, I was managing an inbound team also, so that was new for me. But being a leader, it's a completely different job. So the transition was, I think, a bit painful because I learned the hard way that managing and leading a team is completely different than being an individual contributor.
Yeah.
And you have a lot of new skills to learn that I didn't think about. So that was, I would say, the transition for me.
Yeah, indeed. As you mentioned, early stage companies, not only are you learning a new job, but you're essentially building out the framework, the motion, the structure in
Also,
itself, right? Wow, brilliant. And the greatest lessons often do come from mistakes, but are there any common pitfalls or mistakes that you see new leaders making, and perhaps some that you made, that you'd say you need to avoid that at all costs?
Yes, a lot actually, because of what we mentioned. So, because I think a lack of resources or enablement from management, and I know that obviously the bigger the company are and the more they invest in leadership, um, enablement. But one that I've seen over and over, I would say is most of the time new leaders, they don't think hiring is important. And I'm going to say why. Uh, I think it's a mistake because you are when you're building a team or you're managing a team most of the time, if you have great processes but not great a great team, unfortunately, it's going to be really hard to get results. If you have a great team but okay processes, you can still figure out how to get great results. And I see that so many times that leaders they think, oh yeah, they can figure out everything, they can fix the process, they can fix a lot of things. Well, at the end, it's the team you are leading that sometimes you made some mistakes in hiring, and that's the one mistake you've made. And unfortunately, uh, fixing hiring mistakes it's really hard. So I think that's the first one.
And expensive, right?
And expensive, yeah, because if we talk about yeah, the cost of that, but I think it's a common mistake because most of the time they think, oh yeah, you just need to coach and onboard your team and that's it, and they will figure out.
Yeah.
Or I don't. That's not all the answer, unfortunately. Hiring is the first part of the equation.
Yeah, it is such a great point. I think the only true and sustainable USP that any business has is their people. Processes, you can build them, you can copy others.
Yeah,
Everything else could be replicated from somewhere else. So it's really important, as you said, to get the right people on board, and the rest falls into place. Hopefully.
exactly. Another one that I've seen also, it's thinking that everyone is like you, and you can replicate. I would say mini Erics. So people, you're building other. How can I say that? You're building your process, and that's it. Okay, you because you maybe you're a top performer, or maybe you are doing fine. They offer you the job, but and you think that okay, it's easy. If I want my team to perform, I just need to replicate my process, and that's it. And the reality is completely different because you have people in front of you that there are people, and some people they are not motivated by the same things, and some people they are okay to do more volume, for example, than quality, and some people they do more quality. And the problem with that is, the problem. It's not a problem, but you need to adapt to your team and not them to you. It's you need to find ways to. Okay, you know that you have some people that are great on the phone. Well, double down on that, for example.
Yeah.
If you have someone who's great on video, well, double that or that. Because if you're trying, obviously, it's great to have people on your team who are great at all channels, outbound channel, for example. But if you think about someone who's great on the phone and someone who is not great on the phone, but this person who is not great on the phone but great at writing emails, the problem with focusing on building their communication skills, they are going to take a lot of time you see, to ramp up on cold calling, but at the same time, they're great at cold emails, and you are not leveraging that. So I think that's another common mistake. And so the what you can do to do that is just the way I'm doing it is finding the superpower of each person in your team. So meaning that what's the best channel for them, and where they're not struggling with it. I'm not saying you shouldn't develop the other skills, that you should focus on double down on the things they're already doing well.
Yeah, yeah, it's about enabling your people to do their best work rather than just getting the best out of them. So I love that. I wanted to circle back on to a point that you made in
Yes.
point number one around leadership enablement. It's a topic that I think a lot of people that I'm speaking to, it's on the forefront of their mind. We talk a lot about sales enablement, focus on the individual contributors, but
Yeah.
not enough on leadership enablement. Are there any topics or areas that really interest you within leadership enablement?
Yes, because if we go back to what I was saying earlier and what you are just saying here, the a lot of people they invest, not people, companies that invest a lot on reps most of the time. Obviously, if companies are getting bigger, most of the time they are investing more in leadership. But most of the time, you don't see a lot of enablement in leadership, and it's also on top of that, it's a lonely job because you are not in a team anymore most of the time, or sometimes. The feeling I had also being in leadership is yes, you are working mainly, you are reporting directly to the VP of sales or to the CRO or to the founders, but and then you are in meetings with other teams, but they are not your team. I would say it's you have the sales team, you have the marketing team, the ops team, the CS team, the data team, whatever. And it's not like you are part of a team, so it's like you're more lonely than being an SDR, if we talk about it being SDR. So
Uh,
for me, what work really well is two things. Actually, if I know with the SDR leader of EMEA, I know it's a great way. Unfortunately, when I moved to leadership, uh, the committee didn't exist. But what I was doing, I was reaching out to people on LinkedIn. I was reading a lot of books about leadership to learn about the job because, yeah, I think today you have more resources for leadership, but
yeah.
it was 5 years ago the first time I was in a leadership position, and you didn't have like a lot of resources. So yeah, that's another I think mistake that people make is they are not investing enough also in their development because unfortunately, yes, I can blame the companies and say, yeah, they don't invest enough in my enablement, but I'm not here to blame if I to blame them, but that it's I need to take ownership also of that. Obviously, if they are investing in me, perfect, but
Yeah.
you should. They most of the time they don't invest in their own enablement. So
Yeah, yeah, indeed. And you made another really good point about sales development leadership being lonely. Someone that I spoke to a couple of weeks ago said it's like being on an island, which
yes,
has its cons because you're a little bit on your own, but equally you're sort of typically you're trying to connect those various other parts of the business that you spoke about there, sales, marketing, products, trying to create that real unified go to market function. Um, and it does have because we're the front line typically in sales development, we get so much good insight directly from the market that we can then feed back. So trying to build those bridges to the other islands, it is really crucial as well.
and yeah, and that's another good point also because that's another thing that I've learned the hard way. But it's how you build relationship with other teams because when you move to leadership, the first thing you think about is your team, but the leadership also is yes, you have your team, but also you have relationship with marketing, AEs, product, CSMs, data, the data team, for example, or the ops team. And it's how you communicate with them, say how you can collaborate together, like you're saying about the data you are gathering from prospecting that you can feel, but also from the data team, what the data team can help you in targeting the right accounts. Same for the ops team. Are they do you have tools already that maybe you are not using or stuff like that? That's where also it's when we are saying it's lonely, but also it's you also have a lot of internal resources that you can leverage in terms of making your team more efficient also. So and it's this one is it took me like a few years or so to be really I'm not saying I'm good at it or great at it, but it's still a learning process because basically you can work a lot with other teams. but you need to think about how can we work together as teams, because sometimes you say, yeah, we can work with product team, but how? That's the question also.
Yeah, indeed. The million dollar question often.
Yep.
Brilliant, brilliant. On the point of professional development, are there any tools or go-to resources that have really helped you when encouraging your teams um, to really focus in on their own professional development?
You mean as individual contributors or leaders?
So as a leader, trying to help the individual contributors to develop.
Um, Obviously, yes, but I wouldn't start with external resources. But my recommendation most times it's, I think there is there is there are three types of resources. So you have your top performers inside the company. So I will start with that. I wouldn't start with like, oh, go listen to this podcast because you will learn so much. No. First step, most of the time I say, okay, so on the team, let's say, for example, at Chili Pepper, we had like a 30 SDR at some point, and we had like 5 top performers on the 30 SDR. So I said, you know what? What you can do to learn about the role of if you're onboarding or if you are struggling in some way, it's spend some time with them. And when I say spend some time, it's not just ask them questions, it's observe them, shadow them when they are working. Because I think top performers, if you ask them questions, you say, hey, what do you do differently than the rest of the team? They're going to say, I don't know. I send more emails. Okay. Do you think that's helpful when you are asking those questions? No. And unfortunately, top performers, some of them are good at that, but some of them they are not good at externalizing what they're doing differently. So how you can understand that is shadowing them and see what they're doing. What are they saying on calls? What are they sending via email? Why do they pick this account? Why this person? And it's a lot of those questions that maybe you won't see just by, because if you just see the dashboard of, oh yeah, they book 20 meetings this month. Well, it's you need to understand all the pieces that they made to achieve this. So that's first answer for this. Second part is for me, it's not also about uh, the skills of being an SDR. It's also understanding your the world of your prospect and customers. So what I mean by that is uh, at every company, I was doing a list of podcasts that my prospect or customers are listening to, or blogs that they are reading, or newsletter they are um, subscribing to, because I think we focus a lot on soft skills or hard skills for ideas, but we forget sometimes business acumen. That's it. I think super important that we don't. And for me, and what I was doing, for example, if we stay on the example of Chili Pepper, uh, we were sharing a lot of episodes from the podcast from Chris Walker, the CEO of Refine Labs and Parcero, because we basically is talking to the customers of Chili Pepper and prospects of Chili Pepper. So if you listen to this podcast, basically you are starting to understand what are the biggest challenges for marketing leaders, for example. And because if you can be great at good calls or great at sending cold emails, but if you don't understand the pains of your prospect, that's tough. And to finish, yes, external resources. But yeah, obviously you have podcasts. The one that we were recommending is I'm still recommending is 30 Minutes to Present Club. And here also my podcast of I'm talking about it because until this year I was focusing a lot of top performing reps, SDRs and AEs doing outbound. And why I was sharing my podcast is because I was interviewing the number one rep at a lot of companies. And because, yes, you have a lot of great resources, but I think also a lot of resources online, they are about trainers talking about the best practices. I think also we should learn from top performers.
Yeah. Yeah. Completely agree. I love that sort of tiered explanation there. Equally, you've touched on the ownership and the accountability that is needed from the rep to take take the reins of their own progression. Do you do you have any exercises or anything that you do with reps to try and encourage that level of self-awareness so they can start going, actually, maybe I need to improve a little bit here, or this is a bit of a weakness for me. Maybe I can get something to improve.
Yes. And the way I'm doing it is basically we have a well, it's not like a super fancy, but it's a spreadsheet that we use. But basically, it's a spreadsheet where you have the math to hit your quota,
Yeah.
and basically, it's an individual spreadsheet because maybe your conversion rate on the phone is different than the top performer. Maybe your conversion rate on the email is different on LinkedIn, and the goal with that is to have your own spreadsheet, but then you compare that to the average of the team. And now you can start spotting your where you need to increase. Because yes, that's I think it's the I could tell them the answer, say, hey, you should work on that. But if we have this spreadsheet and they on their own they work for they add their information on the spreadsheet. So okay, my conversion rate on the phone is this. I this month I made 1,000 calls. Okay, my connect rate is 3%. Okay, the average connect rate of the team is 6%. Mm, okay, that's not normal. What? And now you can they can start digging and finding the answer on their own because as leaders, sometimes also it's you should balance between giving them the answers and they should find the answers. And this purchase specifically, I think it was great because for this specifically, it was one way to make them more like self-aware on where they need to improve. And now when they know where they need to improve, they can look for information for external resources or internal resources. So okay, I know this top performer is doing great at connect rates. I'm going to spend time with this person to learn how can I improve my connect rate.
Brilliant. Brilliant. I love that. I love that. It's all about, measuring what matters. It's the metrics that the data that often brings those things to light and just helps guide us because sales development is such a multifaceted role. There's a lot of element within there. So yeah, I love that.
But for outbound SDRs, most of the time the answer is quality or quantity. But obviously, I've built, and then on top of that, we build like an issue diagnosis doc also because the goal also is to help them based on what you find in your audit or your self assessment, what you can do also about that.
Yeah. Brilliant. Brilliant. I want to move the conversation to look forward.
Yep.
Are there any trends that you're seeing in the market, in the BD space that are getting you really excited?
Yes, AI, and I know maybe it's not like um a surprise for you, but yeah, for me, AI today is the biggest topic because I think if you asked me last year, I would say AI also, but right now I'm starting to see the potential of AI,
Yeah.
and we don't. In fact, it's just the beginning, but I'm really excited about the evolution of AI in outbound specifically, but also as leaders because I think AI is we are just at the beginning and right now, I did like a list on many tutors the other day on 11 ways, for example, how you can use AI today with Outbound. So it's starting to get bigger. So it's
Yeah.
pretty exciting.
It's the tip of the iceberg, right? Are there any specific use cases within AI that are exciting you? Is it, the AI feedback on calls? Is it brainstorming with an AI or yeah, can you just understand that?
So there is one. Well, obviously, there is a lot that we can talk about, but the one you mentioned about, for example, AI helping with updating your CRM, that this one is maybe not like you say, oh yeah, that's okay. But I think it's super exciting because sometimes when you're asking your team, hey, uh, can you add your notes to the CRM, please? And now, basically, AI, they can extract this from the transcript of the call and they can do it on your own. Obviously, you still need like a manual step of checking if it's accurate, but
Yeah.
now it's saving more time. And the way I'm thinking about AI today, it's more about how we can save time to your team and make them more productive. Because I'm not excited about, for example, the way I can write messages for now. I know it's coming, but today I'm not excited about it, but maybe next year. The other one is when that I always was struggling doing that manually is for example, it's predictive scoring on your prospect list. What I mean by that is based on your customers list, how are you making sure that you are targeting similar companies? So sometimes you have people sharing on LinkedIn. Yes, you just look for similar companies than your customers. Yes, but I think it's with AI you can go deeper than that. Sets the similar traits. You can analyze the ACV, the lifetime value of the account, also the churn rate by segment. And now you can, with AI, and it's not just AI, but also machine learning, you can learn what are the top customers for your company and with the lowest churn rate. And you can make sure that you're actually focusing on the seconds because unfortunately, I've seen that at some companies that they focus on some accounts that this segment, the churn rate is higher. And if you know that, that's a waste of time, obviously, for the business, waste of money. And so this one is pretty. It's one that I'm really excited about because until now, I don't think a lot of companies are using that yet, but it's coming, and it's going to be really effective, not just for SDRs but also for the business. So
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And what's your opinion on AI SDRs?
I hate them. No, it's for now. I think it's yeah, not good. So
Yeah, I
we'll
think
see. I think it's improving, but we're not there yet.
yeah, I think there's a threat and an opportunity to them. The threat is that it's just going to further saturate the market, add more noise, make it even more difficult to cut through. But the opportunity off the back of that is that human approach, I think, is going to be even more important for SDRs to really be genuinely authentically human that
Yep.
should cut through the noise.
If we just talk about Asia specifically, the way I'm thinking about how it can help an outbound motion, for example, uh, it's okay if you have like a large TAM. So that's one. But focused on the tier 3 account or tier 2 accounts. But you still have the tier 1 accounts for human SDRs,
Yeah.
where you need resources to break into those accounts. Because AI SDRs, I think, if they focus on tier 3 account, maybe with not the highest ACV, it's still fine. But you prefer to invest your your human resources on the best accounts.
Brilliant. We've spoken about some of the tools there. I'd love to know what is one thing that someone in your team has done this quarter that has just set them apart.
Yeah, so right now, I don't have like a team directly, so I work with some customers. But one thing this quarter that I've seen doing well from my teams in the past was, you remember the spreadsheet we talked about earlier?
Yeah.
It's using this, but instead of on a monthly basis, on the quarterly basis. Because Q4 specifically, I mentioned that I worked on the North American market, and I think it's different than EMEA specifically because in November, uh, I think in November, for example, in Europe, it's okay. In the US, it's you have Thanksgiving, so you have like a week where your prospects are almost off. So what they did differently in Q4 specifically is having this spreadsheet and focused on, okay, if we have October, November, December, and we know that December you have 2 weeks off, your prospects are off, you are off. November, you have Thanksgiving in the US. Well, how many, if you think about each week, how many activities you need to have in mind is you need to adapt to this because, yes, December, that's going to happen every year. It's the same. It's not like a surprise, and it's not like, oh yeah, December is tough. And just by doing that, we did that at the end of September actually, every year, and you will be surprised about the impact of that on October result and November result and December result, just because they prep Q4, and that was it. And it was not like, oh yeah, they did something big in terms of or they spend an hour on research on one account. No, they were aware of how many activities based on the conversion rates they should do on a weekly basis for Q4. And that was it.
Yeah. Yeah, is that organization, right? That's
Yes,
so crucial. Love that.
because and I think that's something I was trying to help my teams with. It's thinking about also ahead, not just on a weekly basis, because SDR, it's, oh yeah, I need to do, I don't know, depending on your number of activities you need to do per day, or conversation, or meetings. Most of the time you think on a daily or weekly basis, and that's it. And the goal with that, it was, okay, if you want to hit quota in Q4, here's what you should think yourself about.
Yeah. Yeah. Can be so easy to just get caught in the hamster wheel, right?
Yep.
There's so much to be done, and oftentimes the thing that makes the difference is lifting your head, looking ahead for the longer term. So I love that.
That's preparation.
Yeah, indeed. Indeed. The last question I've got for you, Elric, is actually asking you to give me a question that I can ask forward to my next guest. Have you got anything in mind?
Yes. And it's about AI, because right now I'm like on this quest to find how other outbound teams or inbound teams are currently using AI. So how do they use AI in their outbound process?
Brilliant.
That's my question.
Brilliant. Elric, it has been an absolute pleasure. Such an insightful session there. If anyone does want to reach out to you, I guess the best place is LinkedIn, or maybe even the SDR Leaders community.
Yep, LinkedIn, the SDR leader community, and also my newsletter. That's where I'm spending most of my time right now.
Perfect. And I will put the link to the newsletter in the description for the podcast. Elric, thank you again. And to everyone listening, until next time.
Jordan, thank you so much. If you find this episode useful and want to scale outbound at your company, you might enjoy my newsletter, Outbound Kitchen. You get a free version every Sunday, and there is also a paid version where you receive more in-depth content, and I sent 10 already. The last one was the SDR career path, the recipe to develop outbound talent. Before that, I've sent 2 deep dives, one on how Snowflake's outbound engine drove them past 3 billion ARR, and another one was on Rippling's #1 growth engine for reaching 350 million ARR. The next one will be on the secret sauce of Pigment to drive 25 million plus ARR pipeline each month. If you're interested, subscribe using the link in the description.